but it's all done on trust. So if you're not communicating or you're not connecting, you can't be closing. So all of them are interlinked because the way you communicate, the way you connect will impact the way you close.
Today on Strategy Shorts, I'm joined by Singh. He is the Group Commercial Director of the Northamptonshire Chamber of Commerce. A bit of a mouthful for me to say, but Sunny, welcome to the show. It's great to have you.
Welcome. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Thank you for having me. Looking forward to, dare I say, ABC, always be communicating. And what a great opportunity this is to connect and communicate.
That's it. So we're going to be talking about ABC a little bit later. But before we get there, I wanted to first touch on your career history, because as I said, you're the Group Commercial Director, but it sounds like you've got many, many different strings to your bow. So why don't you talk us through your career history and how you ended up in this role with the Chambers?
Yeah, I'm not sure how much time we've got, Dan, but I'll give it a good go. My most valuable to this very day in terms of my career, in terms of adding value, was actually my upbringing. I was born and raised on car boots and market stalls. And car boots and market stalls at the age of my first car boot, maybe 8 years old, first market stall, maybe 9 years old, family business, had lots of car boots, had lots of markets. So before school, I'd have to be up at 6 o'clock, go to the market, set up the stall, put together a display, make sure it tracks the punters as such. We sold everything from shoes, all the way through to fashion, all the way through to bongs. It was that diverse, if I'm honest with you. So set up the stall, display the display, back to school, finish school, back to the market. And the reason I say the markets and the car boots were so important for me, and I didn't realize it at the time, was the importance of communicating to so many different people from so many different walks of life. Yet we all had that same passion, love, and care for what we did. And the markets was a great way to meet a lot of different characters, is most probably the way I'd put it. Sometimes a bit of the Jack the Lad approach, but then the lovely lady from next door. And my experience on the markets was one of just pure enjoyment and passion. So I'm a market trader. I'll always be a market trader. I love the buy one, you get one free. I love the banter. I love the hustle. And even to this very day, come a Sunday, come in summer nowadays, I'll definitely end up going to a car boot on a Sunday, whether it's at Six Fields or whether it's at Milton Keynes. I'll definitely be going to a car boot because everybody loves a bargain, right? So that sort of shaped my career journey. Went to school locally, really struggled at school. It wasn't for me. Was dyslexic, struggled with a lot of my vocabulary at the time, etc. Really didn't do too well on my GCSEs, but went into sixth forms, did business studies, really enjoyed business studies because it came second nature to me. It's all about making money. It's all about understanding costs, profits, margins, everything you do, buyers, suppliers, everything you do on the markets. So it was only at college where I got into sort of business studies that I really enjoyed it. Decided not to go down the university route, very money hungry, as you can imagine, being from the markets. There was this perception of cash is king. And I think that part of cash is king is very, very important to this very day. But my first job actually was an office job. It was in Northampton and it was a lead generation sales job. And it was 300 dials a day, cold dials a day, 3 hours talk time a day. Half of them calls will end up being put down on you, slammed down on your face. And I did that for 3 years. And I'll tell you what, I loved it. Absolutely loved the challenge of getting around a gatekeeper. Absolutely loved the challenge of speaking to a decision maker and knowing you've got 7 seconds to make an impact and try and get a meeting with that particular decision maker. And that's installed a lot of resilience into me. And that resilience supported me on my career growth, went into another job after that. So I did that for 3 years. Went into more of a sort of a lead generation sales executive role, which sort of opened up my eyes to more sort of public sector contracts, etc. So I was working on a lot of public sectors, looking at inward investment, looking at economy, looking at growth. And it all started with a conversation. I then moved to a company called BSI, British Standards. And that was, again, a fantastic company, which sort of told me the importance of quality management. And then finally came to the chamber in 2013 and been here for 11 years. And absolutely knew nothing about the chamber at all. Knew absolutely nothing about the chamber. Thought it was maybe a bit of a special boys club or something, if I'm honest with you, from my perception. And then I came to the chamber and I found home, and I'm sure we can pick up on that a bit later.
So really, we've got this career history that started from humble beginnings, developed those gifts for communication, for conversation, for engaging with consumers. And that's carried you all the way through to this position within the chambers today. But you've also got your side projects and your entrepreneurial projects still ticking away alongside this work. Tell us a little bit about some of the other things you've got going on within your business universe.
Yeah, I think business is something that is very, very natural. And going back to the sort of car boots and markets, at a very young age, we were using eBay, and I'd be buying something to flip something. Then when I was about 21 years old, got into sort of property development. Property development has always been something that's always been a passion of mine for many, many years. No longer do that now. It was great. It was fruitful at the time. Takes up a lot of time, takes up a lot of commitment. People think of property development and a lot of people think of Dubai, for example. There's a lot more to property development in terms of the hustle and bustle and working with the right partners and the right tradesmen and making sure you've got the right professional services in place to make it work for you. And then our family businesses, funny enough, complete different things of what we do, beauty salons, etc., all B2C markets. And even though the chamber's a B2B business, it's all about people, Dan. Business is all about people. It's all about communicating. It's about a customer experience. Anybody can deliver customer service. Anybody can say thank you. Anybody can say please. For me, delivering a customer experience is absolutely the key. And I think regardless of if you're in a B2C business like the ones I've just described or B2B business, it's all about becoming an extension to that business so you can add value even though you're physically not sat there. And that is a mindset that I've adopted for all the years being a salesperson ultimately. Yes, I'm group commercial director, but ultimately we're all salespeople at the end of the day. But I want to be a trustworthy salesperson. I want to be the person that can actually walk away from a sale and say, this ain't the right time for you. So reputation and brand and sales brand is very, very important to me.
Yeah, thinking about personal brand and how you represent yourself to the world. We've already touched on the fact that you developed this resilience through those years of working on the market stalls, those early business endeavors. They sort of gave you this strength and this resilience around the way you communicate and the way you present yourself to the world and to other people. And in some ways that chimes with my own experience, which is really interesting to see, because my career started working the tills in the supermarket or cleaning hospital wards or sorting the filing cabinets out at an insurance firm. Really stuff that wasn't very exciting, wasn't very glamorous, but it put me in touch with people. It gave me the skills to communicate with anyone, from troubled teenagers to CEOs. I've had the blessing to work with them all throughout my career so far. But what's really, really interesting for me is that I've also experienced many redundancies and my career not going the way that I had planned. But it is because of my resilience and because of those experiences of communicating with such a wide range of people that have allowed me to bounce back every time. And it's really interesting to see some of those perspectives and some of that experience reflected in your own journey. But I wanted to bring us back to something that I've seen you doing online recently. We're going to be talking about communicating, always be communicating. But I have also been moved and engaged by some of the vulnerability that you've shown online recently, opening the doors a little bit on your personal story and the story of your family. So I wondered if you just wouldn't mind telling us a little bit about that and just talking about why vulnerability is so important when you're telling your story online.
Yeah, Dan, thank you that you've seen them posts, because at first it wasn't easy to share personal posts. And I encourage anybody that's listening that you only do it when the time's right for you, that you allow that vulnerability, because if the time's not right for you to share that vulnerability, it can actually do more harm than good. But if you can use your personal brand and your personal communication and your own social media streams as a opportunity to guide strength from, it's the most amazing thing in the world. So it's linked to my backstory. I'm a big believer, Dan. We were speaking off air. You've got an amazing backstory, a hell of a journey. And most probably, like every single listener here, they'll have some form of backstory. And my backstory very much is a case of my mum's always been in business. My dad was not always about, for one or given a reason, etc. during my upbringing. And my mum was my absolute superhero. My mum's always been my superhero. She was running businesses and she was looking after me, which is a fair play to her because I was an absolute lunatic at times when I was younger. So thank you, Mum. Appreciate it, Mum. But that sort of vulnerability comes from the fact that because my dad wasn't always about during my upbringing, and I most probably saw things that I shouldn't have seen, but also at the same time saw a lot of things that impacted my dad at the time. In terms of his decision-making in life. He was very troubled, had a lot of challenges when it came to addictions, a lot of challenges when it came to talking about men being alpha male sort of mindset, which ain't, in my opinion, is the right mindset. As a male, found it very, very difficult to talk about his financial challenges and how that made him feel. So my dad had a lot of challenges, and there was almost a taboo subject to a degree that men should talk. And then find it hard to talk, etc., because he ultimately would find his answer at the bottom of a bottle of drink or whatever it may be, or casinos or whatever it may be. So that vulnerability took me a long time that I could quite regularly start sharing about the impact that had on me. As much as I paint that picture out, I had a lovely childhood, by the way. I really enjoyed my childhood because I didn't always, mum was busy running a business, dad wasn't always around. I got the opportunity to explore life. I got the opportunity to go down parks. Remember when back in the day when you used to knock for people? Like, there's none of this telephone. You just go knock for somebody and hope they're in and they've got to come back in for their lunch. So I've got this opportunity to meet a lot of people. And I use that as a source to, again, develop myself and be the best version of myself that I can be. But sharing details of my dad and the impact that he passed away at a young age, was the reason that I introduced #ABC, always be communicating, because my dad couldn't communicate. He was too much of an alpha male to have that conversation. Off the back of that, we introduced a couple of years back Chamber Men's Health Week, where we talk about men talking. It's a week-long activity of men networking events. So ABC came off the back of that. And I say my inbox is always open. Last year alone, and I won't name anybody, I had maybe 15 to 20 men message me, and I had coffees with them, spent a bit of time with them, and we just spoke. That's all it's about. It's communicating, because from my experience, the person that's got it all is the person that ultimately is struggling the most.
I think what's really powerful about what you've done there by telling your story is you're laying a foundation for other people to do the same. You're almost saying to people, look, we all have luggage that we struggle to drag around with us. And it's okay for you to talk to someone about that, or for you to share your story. And when you do share your story, you pave the way for other people to follow. You're opening the door for other people to engage. And that's why you've had those people reaching out to you, because you've given permission for people to open up about their own vulnerabilities. In today's episode, we've teed it up a couple of times by this point, this ABC, #ABC, always be communicating. Talk to us a little bit more about that. It's more of an insight than a framework, I guess, in this case, but tell us a little bit more about why ABC's important, and perhaps how you're hoping it's going to help people and how it's going to grow.
Okay, Dan, I'll try and break this down into most probably 3 or 4 different points. So ABC historically is a old sales term. It's always be closing. When I was back in the day, my first job, $300 a day, 4 hours talk time, whatever it was like, close the sale, close the sale, close the sale. And that was the mindset. And to be fair, it's still the mindset of many, many businesses to this very day. And if it works for them, fair play to them. Now, ABC, always be closing, to me, I think is actually not closing the sale. You're closing the next step of the process. That was my thinking. It's very hard to introduce yourself and go straight to the close. It could be as simple as you're picking up the phone or you're sliding into somebody's DM. You want to know what the next step of that process looks like. I want to introduce my services. Okay, want to introduce my services. Who do I need to speak to? Okay, you've got that next step of the process. So to me, I still use the term ABC as in always be closing, but not the sale, the next step in the process. And it's all just developed off the back of that. So I then introduced ABC, always be communicating. And that's twofold. One is talk about yourself, talk about your journey. If you need support, you need advice, absolutely. But in business, regardless of what business you offer, businesses need to be communicating, whether that's through networking, whether that's through their website, whether that's through their social media, whether that's through their SEO, whether that's through podcasts like this, whether that's through using fantastic businesses like yourself, Dan. Businesses need to look at different streams to communicate because people buy into people, and that part of business will not change. Whereas the communicating piece is absolutely the key, because if you're not communicating, your competitors absolutely will be communicating. I guarantee you it. And the chances are they're mostly going to be reaching out to your target audience. They got extended a bit further, as in ABC, always be connecting. That's a big one for me. Networking has played a massive part in my life, not just from a new business perspective, but having amazing friends who I now call friends, having some fantastic mentors, identifying collaboration, looking at target, but it's all done on trust. So if you're not communicating or you're not connecting, you can't be closing. So all of them are interlinked because the way you communicate, the way you connect will impact the way you close. That was the thinking of ABC. And it's something that I believe by. It's something that I think adds a lot of value. And it's great seeing so many people on LinkedIn using the term ABC.
Thinking about this, I think we're on the pathway here to a framework, actually. You've almost got these 3 steps of communication, connection, and closing. And in the first part of that journey maybe is always be communicating. And that can be about building relationships. It can be about paving the way for other people. It can be about engaging with vulnerability, but it can also be about business. It's just a mindset. Always be communicating. And then what comes off the back of that is either the close or the connection. Like, what's the output of that communication? Is it a sale or is it the next step on a journey? So I think we are on the precipice, Sonny, of building a new framework live in this episode.
And I'd just like to add that, by what you've mentioned there, always be communicating, always be connecting leads to always be closing. But there's actually a step before that you've just reminded me. Actually, always be caring. You need to be caring for yourself and allow them vulnerabilities, as you rightfully mentioned at the beginning, because the best salesperson is the person you're selling to in the mirror. We do this every day as human beings. We get up, we get ready, brush our teeth, etc. We subconsciously are selling ourselves to the person in the mirror. If you can't sell yourself to the person in the mirror, what chance do I have as a salesperson ultimately to go out and pitch my services to somebody else if I don't believe in myself? So self-belief is really, really important. So if I can look after starts by looking after and caring with myself, communicating, connecting, and that supports my closing. So thank you to you, Dan, but that's just reminded me actually of the importance of self-care and self-belief.
Sonny, we're just about coming into the end of our time together. And I think we've probably already covered this, that final piece we're discussing there about always be caring might be the starting point, but we always want to give people something practical to think about or to take away and try. So what would be your top tip? Instinctively, I think that always be caring is a great place to start with all of this, but what would you say was your starting point for this?
Yeah, I think that's a really difficult one because so many people then will find something that works for them in terms of their hobbies, in terms of the gym, going out for a walk. For me, it's actually slightly different. I've got a different take on it. My biggest getaway is games, computer games and retro games. This sounds, bear with me here, bear with me. So I was brought up on the SNES, I was brought up on the NES, the Mega Drive, the Master System, the Dreamcast, the Game Boys of this world. And I've got a young family, I've got chamber going on, I've got various boards I sit on, etc. Life is very fast-paced all the time. I try and give myself at least 15 minutes every single day to do something that I enjoy. And if that means me putting on a Super Nintendo and playing Zelda, or if that means putting on Resident Evil on the PlayStation 1 and giving myself that 15 minutes to take me back to my childhood, to take me back to things that make me happy, and giving myself the opportunity to breathe. It doesn't always have to be, you have to go to the gym, you have to go for a jog, you have to go for a walk. Yes, that is all great for your mental health, but whatever you love and whatever your passion is, follow something, because that will then support your mindset, which will support you caring, which will then support your strategic direction to ultimately look at connecting, collaborating, and closing.
Sonny, it's been so great that you were able to make some time for Strategy Shorts. I know that you're an extraordinarily busy man, so I really appreciate you making a hole in your diary for the show. And let's speak again soon.
Thank you very much, Dan. And anybody listening and any of my connections, for those that want to get involved, please do reach out to Dan. He's been absolutely professional from start to finish. No hesitation recommending his services at all. Thank you very much, Dan.